Well, good morning, and welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting. We appreciate your attendance, and for the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. For introductions, on my left is Commissioner Todd Wilchin. On my right is Vice Chair Commissioner Larry Hudkins, and I am Commissioner Roma Amundson, presently Chair of the Board. Will you join me now in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. And Miss Clerk, will you begin the agenda, please?
Sure. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available from the county clerk's staff. These materials can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015.
I move approval.
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections? Please call the roll.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Under minutes, item B is approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on Tuesday, January 27th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections? Okay, we have motion and second. Please call the roll.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item 2 is approval of all claims processed through February 3rd, 2015.
I move approval of all claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve all claims. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next, under special presentation, is Lancaster County Audit Report for the year ended June 30th, 2014. We have with us Dennis Meyer, the county's Budget and Fiscal Director, and Shelley Hammond with Allen Gibbs and Hulick LC.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Shelley is going to kind of go over our audit report. I just kind of wanted to make sure a couple things. In front of you, you've got the current audit report that Shelley brought up with her today. I've also given one to the clerk's office, so it will be filed there. So I'm going to just kind of reintroduce you to Shelley Hammond. I don't know that Todd's probably hasn't met her before, but Shelley works for Allen Gibbs and Hulick, who is our audit firm. We're kind of, I was kind of worried she wasn't going to maybe get up here today. They do come out of Wichita. Mm-hmm. And not only is she presenting the audit today to you, but she's also teaming up with Bob Walla and is doing some federal training to some of the city and county departments today. So I'm just glad she got up here, because otherwise I was going to maybe have to pick it up, and we all know how that goes. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Shelley.
Would you introduce yourself, Dennis?
Yes, I am Dennis Meyer. I'm the County Budget and Fiscal Officer.
Thank you.
So, Shelley, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dennis, very much. And I got up here, I would say, because of your fine roads folks, whether it's at the state or the county level. The roads were fantastic, at least for me, coming in yesterday. So it made it easy getting here, no problems. As Dennis indicated, I'm here today to present the summary results of our audit, and he indicated that he passed out a copy of the audit report to you. That includes the audit of the financial statements, which is the bigger book that you have, and then we also provide what's called a management letter, which is a separate letter. Did they also get?
Yes.
Okay.
It should be inside. Yep.
Okay, so the letter is where I'm actually going to start. Within this letter, this is what we call our required communications. There are certain things under our auditing standards that we have to follow, that we are required to communicate to you as the governing body each year, and that's what's summarized in this letter, so that's where I'm going to start. Within this letter, it talks about the fact that we follow certain generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards, so it kind of just gives you an idea of what the standards are that we follow. We're required to talk about if there's been any changes in accounting policies that the organization has adopted, and there were none during this past fiscal year, so I don't really have anything to report on that front. We're also required to talk about if there's any significant estimates within the financial statements. Not every number in your financial statements is a hard and fast number. Some things do have to be estimated, and sometimes assumptions have to be used. An example of that is what we call claims and this is on the top of page 2 if you're following me, claims liability for claims incurred but not reported. For example, the county is self-insured for its workers' compensation and general liability. That means at the end of any point in time, so at the end of June 30 or end of your fiscal year, you have claims outstanding that you haven't paid. You may not know exactly the amount that you're going to have to pay, but you can estimate what that is. So that's an example of an estimate. Our process as your auditors is to come in and look and make sure that that's been calculated in accordance with generally accepted accounting practices, and that if there are any assumptions used, the process used really overall to accumulate the information for that estimate is a reasonable process. The assumptions, if any, are reasonable. The data is consistent with historical trends. So we look at a variety of things. What I will tell you is that for any estimate within the financial statements, we did find those to be in accordance with generally accepted practices, and we found the estimates to be reasonably determined. So that's essentially the conclusion on those. We are also required to report on whether we make any adjustments to the financial statements that were originally provided to us, and you'll see there we had 3 things that we did correct during the course of the audit. I will tell you that having 3 adjustments is a very low number. I go to many places where I can have 30 or 40 adjusting entries. So if you have any questions on the specifics of those, I would be glad to answer them. But I guess the context I was trying to provide is that in any audit, you're inevitably going to probably have at least a couple adjustments to the audit during the audit process. So the fact that you had 3 is, I think, reflective of the books and records being compiled by your management team in a very good fashion before we got here, I guess is the point I was trying to make. Yes?
You mentioned in your report here, GASB has issued several statements that they want us to move towards. And your statement in here, the county plans to implement all standards by the required dates. Do you think we're on track to meet those dates?
Yes, the GASB is the Government Accounting Standards Board, and that's the national body that puts out all accounting rules that all governments have to follow. And they have issued, I want to say probably 5 or 6 standards that have been issued in the last couple of years, and they always say that you have to have it implemented by a certain date. And so they give governments time to compile the information they need to implement those. And it's usually a year or 2 time frame, and then you have to implement it. With all of our clients we work with, we ensure and we work with them to make sure that you're on track to implement those standards and make sure if they apply to you that you implement them as appropriate. What I will also tell you is that a lot of times those accounting standards don't necessarily apply to your operations. They are sometimes very narrow in scope. And so you may not have any activity related to that particular accounting standard. And I think for the ones that are coming up in the next year or 2, that may be what we find, is that some of them may just not apply to Lancaster County. But we're certainly having those discussions as we go through the audits to make sure that you're on track by the time those effective dates arrive.
Thank you for that explanation.
Continuing on the bottom of page 2, we do have at the very bottom of page 2 miscellaneous things where we talk about the fact that we didn't have any disagreements with management, no significant issues that arose during the course of the audit. We didn't encounter any difficulties during the course of the audit. In fact, Dennis, Liz in his office, everyone we work with, and that encompasses a number of people outside of the budget and fiscal office, because we work with the clerk's office and the treasurer's office and the engineers and a variety of departments. Everyone we have found to work with here has been well prepared for us, open to answering our questions, getting us the information we need in a timely manner. So all of those things I think are important for you to know. On page 3, we then get into talking about if we have any internal control items to report to you. And we do have 2 items, and these are actually similar to issues we visited about last year, although they have improved some from last year. So one pertains to the preparation of the financial statements themselves. So that bigger book that you have, the idea is that management is responsible for that book. And responsible for preparing those financial statements. We come in and then make sure that those numbers are correct. With Lancaster County, and we do this for a lot of our governmental clients, so you're not unique in this, we provide assistance in compiling that information. So we will take the general ledger and the trial balance that is provided and massage it, if you will, into a format that is in compliance with the reporting requirements to put that book together. The vast majority of the adjusting journal entries that need to be done as of the end of the year are done by your staff. As I indicated previously, we only had 3 corrections. So all of the adjusting entries that most governments have to do on a year-end basis to compile that document, your team is doing. We're just assisting with putting the final pieces together. However, our recommendation here is that your team continue to work towards putting more and more of that together, with hopefully getting to the point at some point someday of maybe being able to put the whole document together. I will tell you, we have very few clients who actually get to that point, because putting that big book together is a real chore, and there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. So while we have this on here as a recommendation for the Budget and Finance Office to continue working towards that as a goal, and they certainly have made improvements and strides to doing that, we also recognize that there can be resource constraints and time limits on people's time to be able to get there. So while we are reporting this to you, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the context of what we see in other places, you guys are doing a really good job. And there still can be improvements made, but you're doing a really good job with the resources you have. Kind of related to that is an issue related to capital assets, and that's on the top of page 4. We also talked a little bit about this last year, and your capital asset information, so all of your buildings, your roads, your bridges, vehicles that you might own, those are all of the assets that you own, and those get recorded within the financial statements, but they only get recorded when we do this book at the end of the year. So they only get recorded for year-end financial reporting purposes. So the process to compile that information is only done once a year. Therefore, there aren't ongoing, regular, say, monthly or quarterly processes to compile that. It's a once-a-year thing, and that can make it somewhat challenging to do. We observed last year that there could be better communication between the engineering and public works areas and the finance office. We did see that happening this year, so we saw improvement there. We did see still some ongoing corrections in that area once we got in to do the testing. So again, it's one of those areas that's continuing to improve. We did still have some things that we corrected during that process, so there's still a little bit more room for improvement, but things are certainly improving compared to where we were at this point last year. So I wanted to at least make sure you were aware of that as well. And Dennis, I don't know, I guess I would stop and see if there's anything, since these are items
Right.
related to your office, that you wanted to comment on.
Right. I think for the most part, from the county side, you know, as far as the fixed assets go, out at the engineer's office, you know, we've had some turnover over the last year or so. We are in the process of setting up a meeting between us and the engineer's office within the next couple weeks to kind of try to address the fixed asset issue, to try to get everybody on board, to try to, you know, sometimes when accountants and engineers try to have the same conversation, it tends to go 2 different ways. So we just want to make sure that everybody kind of understands why we need this information versus why they need it, and kind of make sure we're going to kind of move in the right direction. The other comment that Shelley mentioned was the preparation of the financial statement. You know, from when I first started to now, things have changed quite a bit. And one of those reasons is that you allowed me to bring Liz over to our office. And so that's kind of moved us along to where we are. You know, as far as the county goes, we're not quite there. But as far as the JPA, the Public Building Commission, the Crisis Center now, we do prepare those audit reports. And so the county's the big one. It's the one that comes at the tail end. So for time, it really kind of crunches us. But by having Liz moved over, it has no doubt helped. And hopefully each year, like I was telling Shelley earlier, Liz is always optimistic that we're kind of moving in that right direction, that we're going to get there. So, so that's kind of where we're at on that.
Yeah, Larry.
Well, I think the board would like to compliment Dennis and Liz for kind of catching up on these things and bringing them around. And in your audit report, you note that the infrastructure assets had not been properly capitalized for financial reporting purposes. And by doing so, and we really appreciate the county engineer's office with a new leadership over there, we've gotten a handle on that, and it has increased the county's net position by $6.2 million. So it's good to know what we have and where we have it and the state of it. So I'll compliment both of you for working on that and getting us in a better position. Set of records, if you don't have them, they're kind of like a clock without hands. It goes on running, but it doesn't tell you much.
Last thing I wanted to touch on within the letter was at the bottom of page 4. This isn't a control weakness. It's not a finding. This is just something we're working with the finance group on. One of those new rules, if you will, that's going to become effective actually this year. The OMB, which is the Federal Office of Management and Budget that puts out rules for how you manage your federal grant funds, has changed those rules, and those become effective here in 2015, and that's part of what we're having the training on later today that Dennis mentioned earlier with various folks within the county. There are some changes to some of the information that must be compiled, what's called the Schedule of Federal Awards, the list of all the federal expenditures that the county has. There's some changes to that. This is simply a recommendation for management to consider some changes in internal processes to compile that information to be in compliance with those new rules. So again, we've been working with Dennis and his team, Rhonda Ryan, who kind of is the grants coordinator, to help ensure that they're going to have this information ready when we come out for the June 30th 15 audit. So this isn't, like I said, a finding or an issue. It's just something we're continuing to work on with management to ensure that these new rules will be adopted appropriately by the time we're back out here for this year's coming audit. The last thing I wanted to touch on just very quickly, I'm not going to go through the big book in detail. Certainly if you have any questions once you do look at that, I'm more than happy to take questions. I'm sure Dennis would field any questions. What I wanted to point out to you is that it has 2 sections within it. Most of it, the first probably 50 pages, is the financial statements. So all the financial statements and our audit opinion is also in there. If you go towards the back, and I'm looking to see approximately the page number, it's actually on page 70, so it's actually quite a ways at the back. There's a second section to the report. It's what's called our single audit report. That is our report on the federal grant funds that the county receives. So that's more of the compliance audit. The first 69 pages is the financial part of the audit. The last few pages, starting on page 70, is where we provide our audit reports on the compliance with federal funds. For both the financial statements and the compliance audits, we provided what are called unmodified opinions. In layman's terms, that's often referred to as a clean opinion. That's the highest level of opinion you can achieve. And we provided that opinion on both the financial audit and the compliance audit. In the compliance audit section, if you want to look through there, it lists in there at the very, very back, page 80, all the federal grant funds that the county spent during the course of the year. So just if you're curious to see what those are, there's a list of them. That's that Schedule of Federal Awards I mentioned earlier. So if you want to see those, we select a sample of those. We tested 3 different grant programs last year, and we had one finding related out of those 3 programs, and that's listed on page 78. So from a grant compliance testing perspective, we did have one issue. It's a fairly minor issue, and again, that's on page 78. It is actually not a compliance issue. We did not find that the county was out of compliance with any rules, but this is really more of an internal control issue. So with one of the grant programs, when the county is drawing down funds to get reimbursed by the federal agency, there should be somebody, a second person, kind of reviewing that and approving that. It's kind of a standard internal control that the person who prepares it, a second person, should kind of review it and make sure it's accurate. We weren't seeing that secondary review being done, so it's really an internal control issue. The drawdown itself and the request for reimbursement were fine, and there were no issues with that. So that's what I meant when I said that there wasn't a compliance issue. It's really just having that secondary level from a review standpoint to strengthen internal control. So that's the only item we identified during the compliance part of our audit, and I wanted to point that out. Yes, I know I went through all that very quickly. That really is kind of the end, so I will gladly take questions.
Well, thank you. The one question I had, going back to the other recommendations involving the recommendation that the county evaluate whether business units could be set up for all federal funding sources. So when you define a business unit, would that be each individual grant that the county receives, or would it be each individual department at the county level, or at the federal level? Can you kind of expand on what the,
Very good question. So what I was referring to here, within your general ledger system, and Dennis could probably speak to this as well, your general ledger accounting system allows you the ability to create what's called a business unit, which is kind of like a cost center to track activity related to a particular project or grant. So my recommendation here was going to be related to, for each grant, so if you get, say, a grant from the Department of HHS, and then maybe you have separate grants from the Department of Justice, setting up separate business units to track that activity separately. Under these new uniform grant rules that the OMB passed that are effective this year, they have an increased emphasis on making sure that you can track and identify activity related to specific grant projects. So it's the ability to go into your general ledger and pull out activity related to just that individual grant is what that pertains to. Does that make sense?
yes, it does.
And Todd, right now, we've got some business units that would have a mixture of some of those grants in there. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now versus maybe where we need to be at.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, and this will create accounting issues for the county, because when you have the mixed funds, I know how complicated and how you start creating several different accounts, and that again creates
Right.
kind of an accounting nightmare.
Right.
And I'm an accountant, so I can I can say that.
So I can talk accounting speak. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
I've actually taken an accounting class and actually understand GASB versus FASB. So
Okay. Very
I'm
good.
glad that I'm finally putting to use my.
I'm glad you're on the board.
Any other questions?
Okay. Mhm. Okay, well, listen, Shelley, thank you so very much for your report. You know, it's really good to hear how the county is, the financial aspects of it and everything are cooperating with you in creating this report and everything. It's very well prepared, and, you know, the timeliness of the county entities to report is exceptional, and the quality of the accounting is very good. So I really think that the people in the county have done a great job, and you have put it all together, and so we're very pleased with your recommendations. We will move in that direction, and thank you for your work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Drive carefully on the way back home tonight.
We will.
Next, under old business, item 4A is a contract with CBM Managed Services to provide food service for various Lancaster County departments. The county will pay for products according to the enhanced menu pricing. The term of the agreement is a 4-year term beginning February 1st, 2015.
I move approval.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this contract with CBM Managed Services. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. 5A is an addendum to County Contract C14-0224 between Lancaster County and Milliman, Inc., extending the agreement for professional actuarial services for 1 additional year, beginning February 1st, 2015, and ending January 31st, 2016.
I move adoption.
I would second that with comment. This is an outside contract, but this healthcare and the insurance things are so complex anymore that we need somebody that specializes in it to advise the county board, and so that's the reason we do this.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt this addendum. Please call the roll.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item 5B is a service and support agreement with Renovo Software for the video visitation system at the Lancaster County Department of Corrections.
Move adoption of the agreement.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt this agreement. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item 5C is a contract with Surface Sealers, Inc. for broadcast system flooring at the Lancaster County Department of Corrections. Cost to the county is $7,500.
Move approval?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this contract with Surface Sealers. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Wilchin?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item D is a grant contract with the Lincoln Lancaster County Child Guidance Center in the amount of $50,000 for funding of outpatient mental health services. Term of the grant contract is July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
I move adoption of the grant contract.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item E is a grant contract with Omni Behavioral Health in the amount of $30,000 to provide funding for functional family therapy services. Term of the contract is March 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
I move for approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant contract with Omni Behavioral Health. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item F is an amendment to County Contract C13399 with Omni Behavioral Health to provide funding for functional family therapy services. The amendment extends the grant term to December 31st, 2014 to coincide with an extension of the grant.
I move adoption of the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt this amendment to the county contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item G is release of property damage claims for Bob and Don's Plumbing LLC.
I move adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the release of the property damage claims. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item H is a grant application and grant agreement with the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality for the Lancaster County Engineering Department's implementation of litter reduction and recycling programming. The county will receive grant funds in an amount up to $5,000. And just so the board knows, we did receive the documentation this morning, so we do have the agreement or the application.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. I have Ron Bohati, the shop manager, with me today, and he's been the one that has really spearheaded this Adopt a Road program. And Ron's going to come up and answer any questions and talk about this grant, which was really something that was his idea, and I appreciate his follow-through to get us this money. There's only one thing I wanted to add. The last time we talked about the Adopt a Road program, I got several calls from constituents asking why we didn't use help from corrections to clean the right-of-ways. And of course, during this snow time when we've been out clearing the roads, we don't use corrections help. But most days we do go and pick up four laborers from corrections that assist us in maintaining the right-of-ways.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Ron?
Hello.
Yes.
So our Adopt a Road program is where different groups within the county come in and we give them vests and signs so they can safely block off a mile of road and go pick up the litter and bag it up for us. The vests that we had were outdated. This grant is to provide about 150 new vests, signs, sign stands, and cover the cost of the trash bags for that service.
How many people usually do come out, like on a day? Does it?
We have 85 miles of county roads that we have set up on the Adopt a Road program. It consists of about 35 groups. Those groups are anywhere between 5 and 20 people. And so the reason for so many vests is sometimes that we don't get them back right away while in the transition from one group to another.
Yeah.
But we could always use more groups.
You'd always use more groups, yeah. Larry?
Well, our Malcolm Methodist Men has about a mile and a half of 112th there from Malcolm out to Highway 34. It's amazing how much that we pick up. We try to pick it up twice a year.
Right.
And it'd be good because those vests were getting pretty bad shape. And we've been using our own trash bags, so that'll help out too. But some of us are getting a little older and it's a little on the steep side, so we've been hiring some Boy Scouts to help us out. But we want them well protected, so thank you for pursuing the grant.
Yeah, this is a great project.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I'd move approval.
A second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this grant application and grant agreement. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item I is appointment of Sarah Hoyle to the position of Lancaster County Human Services Director at an annual salary of $75,000 effective February 5th, 2015, and subject to a 6-month review with a potential annual salary increase not to exceed $80,000.
Sarah?
Hi. Hi, well, I just want to say thank you. I really look forward to this opportunity to serve Lincoln and the community in this capacity. So thank you very much.
Well, we're looking forward to working with you and seeing great things happen.
Well, Sarah, we knew you were a worker bee from the day you started working over there. And I'll admit, I was wondering, are you ready for this job yet? But at your interview, you just absolutely aced it. It was unanimous decision by the County Board of Commissioners, and your hard work, your dedication to the job, and your heartfelt reason why you're here and why this is a life path that you've chosen speaks to why you're so dedicated to what you do. So thank you for being a good county employee and working your way on up to directorship, and we're glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
Sarah and I'd like to echo what Larry and Roma mentioned, that, going through the process, it was one of those new experiences. But, going into it, each of us had our own different ideas of the type of director that we wanted, and we all had different issues which came out during the process, and then during the especially during your interview, your ability to answer most of those issues before being asked, definitely spoke volumes, and definitely led the five of us to determine unanimously that you'd be a great fit. And we all look forward to working with you in your new role, especially myself as a new county commissioner. I think this is a good opportunity to both learn together. So I look forward to working with you over the coming years. So thanks for your willingness to step up and serve. Thanks to your family. I know that it is a sacrifice for both you and your family. So we're very thankful for that.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Do we have a motion
I
on this?
would move approval of the appointment of Sarah Hoyle.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appointment of Sarah Hoyle to this position. Is there any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next, under consent items, we have receive and place on file the county attorney's quarterly report for October 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014.
I would move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we receive and place on file the county attorney's quarterly report. Please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next is public comment. Those wishing to speak on items relating to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Is there anyone who would like to speak on items related to county business? And seeing none, please proceed.
Next are announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a mid-year budget retreat on Thursday, February 5th, 2015 at 8 a.m. in the Nebraska Association of County Officials office at 1335 H Street in Lincoln, Nebraska. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold their next regular meeting on Tuesday, February 10th, 2015 at 10:30 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building, with the Board of Equalization immediately following. The county commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or at commish@lancaster.ne.gov. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live. It is rebroadcast on Tuesday and Saturday on 5 City TV, Cable Channel 5. In addition, the meeting may be viewed on the internet at lancaster.ne.gov under 5 City TV, Video on Demand, or 5 City TV on YouTube.
I move adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Carries 3-0.
Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Lancaster County Board of Equalization to order. Please
Proceed.
begin the agenda.
Sure. Copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available from the county clerk's staff. These materials can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Also in attendance today is Scott Gaines with the County Assessor's Office. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held on Tuesday, January 27th, 2015.
I move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next item is additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls.
Move approval?
Second?
Moved and seconded that we approve the additions and deductions. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Item 3 are motor vehicle tax exemption applications for Catholic Social Services, Connecting Point Church of the Nazarene, Nebraska Conference United Church of Christ, and Nebraska Crop Improvement Association.
I move adoption of the approval of the motor vehicle tax exemption applications.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the motor vehicle tax exemption applications. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next is public comment. Those wishing to speak on items relating to County Board of Equalization business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Seeing no one in the audience,
I move adjournment.
Second?
it's moved and seconded that we adjourn. Please call the roll.
Wilchin,
Yes.
Hudkins,
Yes.
and Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
We are adjourned.